Hello everyone, back tuning in to today's second video. You're going to have a look at whether next week to 10 days or today's second video. It'll take us to around the 25th of February, and we'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and also ECM ensembles, which run to a couple of weeks and takes us into the beginning of March. We've got important news to talk about in a moment in terms of Article 13 and the Save Your Internet campaign. There have been major developments this week, and I'll bring you up to date with all of the developments that have taken place in a moment at the start of the video. Just to say that the first video released today was JMA Friday. As always on a Friday, we've got your month-ahead look ahead. Takes us to the middle of March, and it looks like we're going to be in for some very nice, very pleasant early spring weather. So have a look at that and see what's going on. Right, so there has been significant developments with the Article 13 directive and the new copyright directive that's been implemented by the European Union, or will be implemented by the European Union in the next few months. So I talked about this at the end of last year in November, and we talked about it in November and December. YouTube have been running a Save Your Internet campaign to try and get the European Union to back off the worst elements of this new directive that they're bringing in, copyright directive that they are bringing in. We seem to have won a minor battle around a month ago, because the European Union was supposed to sign off on the directive in January, but they couldn't reach agreement about it, and at that point it looked as though it was all being kicked into the long grass. But this week they have signed off on the directive within the European Union, and pretty much certainly in the UK way, pretty much no sort of reports about this in the mainstream media at all. It appears to be more or less a press blackout within the UK about this for some reasons. So I only found out about it this morning, but actually the European Union signed off on this directive on Wednesday. So I'll show you this report from torrentfreak.com, and I'll leave the link to this in the description at YouTube. So this is from Wednesday 13th of February. EU reaches deal on Article 13 and other copyright reform plans. The European Parliament and Council agreed on the final text of the EU Copyright Directive. This includes a controversial Article 13, which opponents fear will lead to broad upload filters. The full package will now go to the European Parliament for a final vote, which is expected to take place in March or April. A bit more. Last September, the European Parliament backed the controversial Article 13 plans, which are part of the EU's broader copyright reform plans. This was followed by several rounds of negotiations, during which the final text would be drawn up. This process was completed today. That was Wednesday. The European Parliament and Council have finally agreed on a final text of the EU copyright reforms. This includes Article 13, which was highly debated and criticised over the past several months. Despite the protests and objections, which also came from right holders in recent weeks, lawmakers didn't slow down. The final version of Article 13 is based on the compromise deal France and Germany struck last week. In short, it requires for-profit internet platforms to license content from copyright holders. If that is not possible, they should ensure that infringing content is taken down and not reloaded to their servers. This will essentially mandate upload filters. Opponents have warned but that wasn't much of a stumbling block during the negotiations. The main point of contention was which services should adhere to the Article 13 rules. And so on it goes. If you want to read the rest of the report, then I'll leave the link in the the description at YouTube, so you can have a look and see what else it says. But basically, the directive, including Article 13, is being implemented as it was originally envisaged in September. YouTube have said and been very clear that this means they will have to implement upload filters and will have to block sort of millions, potentially even billions of videos across the European Union where the person that uploaded those videos does not own 100% of the content. So it doesn't just impact that. So it impacts all of the music videos that you might like to watch, or many of the music videos anyway, that you like to watch across YouTube. It implicates gaming, it implicates science channels as well on YouTube. It doesn't just implicate or impact YouTube either, it will impact websites across the internet. So other uploading platforms like Vimeo will be impacted by this. All websites will have to comply with this directive. So the videos that we have uploaded to Gazworthy since 2012 may eventually finish up being blocked to anybody in the European Union. You may not be able to view those videos in the future, and we may be blocked from uploading future content as well, unfortunately. Now, nothing going to happen immediately, because as it said in the report, it's going to go to the European Parliament, where they have a vote on it, and then it will go to the member states, and all of the member states will have to vote on it within their parliaments as well. There'll probably be legal challenges, I would have thought, going into this as well, so that might hold things up. It may well finish up being bounced around the European Court for a year or two. And when it finally does get implemented, there will probably be an implementation period, I would have thought. So that might last a year or two as well. So nothing's going to happen immediately. We'll be able to carry on with the content, I would have thought, certainly for the rest of this year, possibly, hopefully, for the next year or two as well. But eventually, it does look as though this is coming now. It does look as though the European Union is not going to back off from it, and they're gonna double down and make sure that this gets pushed through. So eventually it could well be that you are not able to watch our videos anymore. The videos have been uploaded, and we may not be able to upload future videos. Now, as far as Brexit is concerned, I know quite a few of you do ask me about how Brexit could impact this. The YouTube are very non-committal about what could happen with the UK's position in terms of Article 13 and Brexit. So when we leave the European Union, there are a variety of scenarios that could happen within the UK. So we may leave without a deal. If that was to happen, then there would be no implementation period. But if we did leave with a deal, then there would be probably a couple of years implementation period where all sort of legislation, both past and future legislation, would apply to the UK. So very uncertain the UK's position in terms of all of this. In theory, maybe it will be possible that people in the UK will be able to watch the videos okay after Brexit and will still be able to upload. But that still leaves all of the people within the European Union. And I know you have many people watching from countries around the EU, so we've got a lot of people following us in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland. We have a big following there, and we have people watching from Belgium and from Holland, have people watching from Denmark, from Norway, other parts of Scandinavia. We have people watching in Poland, Germany, France, through the Mediterranean, into Greece. So I can tell from the website stats at Gazworthy and from the analytics that we get at YouTube, but we do have quite a large following across many parts of Europe. So even if the UK's position is okay after Brexit, and we're still able to upload and people watching in the UK can still watch the videos all right, that will still leave all the people in Europe, unfortunately, unable to view. So pretty grim times. It did look a couple of weeks ago, or about a month ago, as though we've got this kicked into the long grass, and the European Union have been unable to sign off on the legislation. But it looks like it's all systems go now, really, in terms of the new copyright directive and Article 13. So I'll keep you informed. Obviously, as I say, nothing is going to happen immediately. It's got to be voted and ratified both in the European Parliament and then across the member states of the European Union. I really think there'll be a legal challenge somewhere along the line as well, which could hold things up for a while, and then there'll be an implementation period. We haven't heard from YouTube yet about how they are going to implement this legislation when it comes into force. But they're sort of going away and looking at what the legislation says and how they're going to interpret it. I suppose they're consulting with their lawyers, and I would suspect that's the kind of area that any legal challenge will come from. So anyway, this is what you could be seeing in a year or two's time, and you try to view not only Gaz Weather vids, but many vids. You could be seeing this message coming up. This video is not available in your country. Sorry about that. It could become a very widespread. That could become a very widespread image across Europe, unfortunately, when people try to watch. As I say, a lot of videos could be affected by this. So grim times. I'll keep you updated, and I'll let you know what's happening as things develop. Right, so let's get on with the video, and we're going to start off by having a look at the GFS upper air temperatures and precipitation ensembles. We're looking at Leinster today, another place on the suggested list of locations for this part of the video. So these are the 30-year upper air temperature ensembles for Leinster, and we can see from the red line here where the 30-year upper air temperature average is, and we can see that at the moment we are way above average. It is very mild, if not warm, really, in terms of the upper air temperatures, but it's a very unusual situation because although the days are really warm, the nights are actually quite cold. There was widespread frost last night. I don't think the frost tonight will be as widespread because there will be rather more in way of cloud around, but we have entered into a proper sort of continental type climate. So warmer than average with the upper air temperatures at the moment. They're going to drop over the next few days. Excuse me, and it's going to go closer to average by the start of next week, but it's not going to take long at all before those temperatures are lifting off again, going back into another very mild, if not warm spell through the course of the second half next week, and that takes us in towards month's end. Now, right at the very end of the chart here, we have got a drop in the upper air temperatures taking place. So as you get through to the start of March, the upper air temperatures are lowering. There's a few that are dropping into the freezer, but obviously that is extended range stuff. It's very, very unreliable. And all we can say is that within the more reliable time frame, which is the next 10 days, it looks as though, aside from a brief drop in temperature Sunday, Monday, possibly Tuesday, aside from that, we're in for a very mild and potentially at times quite warm pattern. And as far as precipitation is concerned, for Leinster, just loads of dry weather coming up. So barely any precipitation spikes to be seen in the next week. Going to be plenty of dry weather in the next couple of weeks, much drier than average. Temperature anomalies from the 15th to the 23rd of March, again coming out warmer than average. You'll not be surprised after seeing that ensemble graph how far above average the upper air temperatures are. It's reflected on the surface as well, despite the fact we've got some quite chilly nights at the moment. The temperature anomaly from the 15th to 23rd of February, much, much warmer than average. Precipitation anomalies are a lot drier than average out to the north and west of the UK. Does look a little bit wetter there, but most parts of the UK actually seeing precipitation anomalies significantly drier than average. Mild and dry in the week ahead. Want to know where winter is? It's across central and western parts of America. So this is the temperature anomaly for the United States from the 15th to the 23rd of February. So the far east and southeast of Europe, above average temperature anomalies there, but from the Midwest back into the west of the states, much, much colder than average, really, really cold across some of these northern and northwestern parts of the states, significantly colder than average even down into California and sort of states like that. So that's where it's cold at the moment across the central and western parts of America. In the far east and southeast, it is a milder scene. clean precipitation-wise, varying from state to state. But actually where it's cold, it's also quite unsettled by the look of it, so I assume there's a fair amount of snow going on, particularly in those northern and midwestern states perhaps. This is how the GFS is looking back closer to home for Monday. So we're in a showery westerly regime on Monday, but it's not long at all before we start getting high pressure building up from the south. So as we go through the course of next week, high pressure is taking over again, blocking these areas of low pressure out in the Atlantic and pulling up very mild air again from southern parts of Europe. Into the final weekend of February, the 23rd, 24th of February, we keep low pressure out to the north and west of the country. High pressure is through central and southern parts of Europe. Very mild, if not warm, southerly, southwesterly winds bathing the country. And then we go into more extended range up to day 10, which is Monday, the 25th of February. And we're still looking very mild, still high pressure close to us. So ongoing dry weather really continuing up to day 10. In the extended range of a 6 o'clock GFS run, so it gradually starts to turn a little bit more unsettled as we get through to the beginning of March, but it's a really long way off, and as I say, up to day 10 anyway, high pressure to the south and the east is going to remain in control. Any change towards something more unsettled is kind of like the very end of February into the start of March, and that is very much in the unreliable time frame. The parallel GFS run looks like this, so showery on Monday, and then for the course next week, high pressure increasingly building back in from the south-southeast. So that southeast look at the end of next week, Friday, 22nd of February, finds us under an area of high pressure and across central parts of Europe too, so becoming dry and pretty warm at the end of next week. Into the final weekend of February, high pressure remains in control. It's trying to get itself up to Scandinavia. It's trying to turn the wind into the east, which is something the operational run isn't really doing. But that easterly doesn't really come to a great deal. That's how the upper air temperatures are looking. Eastern parts of Europe do look very cold. So there is cold air sitting to our east, and if the easterly winds were to last long enough, that cold air would be pushed our way. However, that attempt to get the high pressure to Scandinavia doesn't come to anything, and it just slips southwards by day 10, taking all of the cold air into sort of a southeastern part of Europe, southern Italy, Greece, Turkey, Balkans. Those areas are getting that cold, those cold upper air temperatures, and we're remaining under that ridge of high pressure. And that ridge goes on into extended range too. It's not until we get to the early part of March but we finally start to break that ridge down a little bit and just start to turn a bit more unsettled perhaps. But again, this is a couple of weeks away and it's really, really unreliable. ECMWF, again, showery for Monday, and then we go through into next week, building the heights up from the south and the east again. So by the end of next week, we're more or less back where we are right now, pulling up these very mild southerly winds with lots of dry weather continuing. Attempt to get high pressure to Scandinavia on Saturday the 23rd of February, with cold air pooling around the back of that Scandinavian high. But again, really, we don't pull off a genuine Scandinavian high. It just slips southwards again, so it's just sitting across central and western parts of Europe as we get to day 10. Monday the 25th of February, still under high pressure, still very dry, perhaps a little bit cooler because it's slightly more of a continental flow compared to the GFS, but overall nothing particularly cold, but cold air is plunging around the back of the high into the Baltic regions and then moving down into that southeastern corner. Finally, these are the options that are on the table within the ECM ensembles at day 10. This is from the Icelandic Met Office. So this is for 25th of February, of course. We've got 31 members, 60% of the ECM ensembles that have high pressure centred over and to the east-southeast of us, and bringing up these very mild winds from a southerly southwesterly direction. There's another 20 that have the high pressure just a little bit further north, so it does include the control and operational ECM runs as well. They're kind of like centred over a little bit to the east-northeast of us. Only a slight difference, but it does mean that they're a little bit cooler. The area is slightly more continental as opposed to the options with these ones where they're bringing up very mild air from the south-southwest. These 20 just here just that little bit cooler as the wind is tilted more towards the southeast as opposed to the east. In 2 weeks' time, these are the options that the ECM ensembles are showing today. So again, this is for the 3rd of February, 360 hours. Looks like he's going for big changes, actually, in 2 weeks' time. So we have 20 members of the ECM ensembles that are very wet, very unsettled on the 2nd of March, I should say. They're bringing in low pressure from off the Atlantic with quite a strong jet stream as well. And then there's another 15 over here that have low pressure out to the west. So they do have a little bit more ridging to the east and southeast, but again, generally these are still Atlantic driven. They're still bringing the wind in from off the Atlantic. And then this middle option, there's 16 of them, including the control ECM ensemble member that are more anticyclonic, and they're taking that high pressure up towards Iceland and Green, so they're also colder as well. They'll be pulling down the winds from the north to northeast direction. That's a minority option, but it does include the ECM control run. So in around day 10, it looks like high pressure is going to be very, very dominant still, and going to be a lot of dry weather. A little bit of uncertainty about the exact position of that high pressure. Will it pull up those really mild or even warm southerly winds like the GFS operational run is showing, or will it be a slightly cooler southeasterly that the ECM operational is showing? So there's a bit of uncertainty about that, but overall high pressure dominates today 10. And around 2 weeks' time, the trend is to turn things more unsettled, I think. If we include the GFS and the ECM ensembles, it looks like they want to turn things more unsettled for the start of March. But again, this is really long way off. We know the models like to revert back to their default pattern, which is westerly and zonal, and bring the winds in off the Atlantic. That's the default setup for the UK. They like to get back to that. And that's 2 weeks away. So I think great caution is needed about that for the time being. So it remains the case that high pressure is going to be in control for the next 10 days. Right, that's it for your videos for today. Tomorrow we'll have weekend forecast. We'll have a week to 10 day video update as well. CFS 6 month look ahead will be coming up tomorrow evening. Sunday, we've got spring analogues for you. We'll have Gazov's Sunny Roundup, of course, and there'll be the E70F and Metro France seasonal model update on Sunday as well. So lots of updates coming up at Gazov's this weekend. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.